Hi there and welcome. In this explainer, we're going to talk about a really important chapter from the Discover Canada Study Guide. It's all about how Canadians govern themselves. Now, I know it can seem like a big topic, but don't worry, we're going to go through it together nice and slow. Now, this explainer is here to help you understand things a little better, but please remember that it is so important to study the official Discover Canada Guide. That book is your #1 tool for the test. You can think of us as just a friendly helper for your studies. So, what are we going to look at today? Well, we'll start with the three main types of government in Canada. We're going to talk about what a federal state is and who does what job. Then, we'll look at our parliamentary democracy. That's all about how we choose our leaders. We'll also explain what a constitutional monarchy means. After that, we'll see how laws are made, and we'll finish up with the key points you'll really want to remember for your test. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so to begin, the study guide tells us that there are three key facts about Canada's government. Getting these three big ideas is really the best place to start. And here they are. Canada is a federal state, a parliamentary democracy, and a constitutional monarchy. I know, these might sound like big, complicated words, but please don't worry. We are going to look at each one by one and make it super simple to understand. First up, let's talk about what a federal state is. This idea is really all about how we share the work of running the country. It's about who does which job. So a federal state just means we have different levels of government that work together. We have one big national government for the whole country. We call that the federal government. And then we have smaller local governments for each province and territory. You can kind of think of it like a big family home. The parents might make the big rules for the whole house, but each person is in charge of keeping their own room clean. And this chart shows us how some of those jobs are shared. The federal government, you see, handles the big picture things for all of Canada, like our military, making our money, and our citizenship laws. On the other side, the provincial governments manage things that are closer to our daily lives, like schools for our kids, our local hospitals, and the highways we drive on every day. All right, let's move on to the second big idea, parliamentary democracy. This is all about how we, the people of Canada, choose our leaders and have a say in our country. You see, in a democracy, the power belongs to the people. And here in Canada, we use that power by voting in elections. We vote for people, who we call representatives, to go to the government and be our voice. They are the ones who make our laws and the big decisions for the country. So you see, your vote is your voice. Now, our government in our capital city, Ottawa, is called Parliament. And our Parliament has three main parts. There's the sovereign, that's our king or queen, and then there are two groups or houses called the Senate and the House of Commons. Let's take a closer look at those two houses. So this slide shows us the big difference between the two houses. The people in the House of Commons are elected. We vote for them. We call them members of Parliament, or MPs for short. They're there to represent us, the voters. But the Senate is different. Senators are chosen, or appointed, and they usually keep their job until they are 75 years old. Their main role is to take a second look at new laws that are suggested by the House of Commons to make sure they're good for Canada.
Ready to test yourself? Well, you can find over 700 practice questions and a lot more study resources over at mycanadianway.com.
All right, on to our third and final big idea for today, constitutional monarchy. This one explains why Canada has a king and what his role really is. So, this means that our head of state is a king or queen, but, and this is a really important part, the king doesn't actually have power to rule the country. He must follow all of Canada's laws and our constitution just like everyone else. His role is symbolic. He is a symbol of Canada and our history, but he doesn't make the laws or run the government. So it's super important to remember this for your test. Canada has two different leaders. We have a head of state, who is the sovereign, our king. Again, that's a symbolic job. Then we have the head of government. That person is the prime minister, and they are the one who actually runs the day-to-day business of the government. Okay, so now we know about the different parts of our government. But how do they all work together? How does a simple idea become an actual law for all of Canada? Let's find out. Well, every law starts as an idea, and that proposal, that idea for a new law, is called a bill. You can think of a bill as the first draft of a law, and that draft has to go on a long journey through Parliament to get approved. Let's look at the steps together, nice and easy. First, in Step 1, the bill is introduced in the House of Commons. Then, in Step 2, the members of Parliament discuss the main idea of the bill. After that, in Step 3, a smaller group studies the bill very, very carefully. In Step 4, they can suggest changes. Next, in Step 5, all the MPs debate it one more time and then they vote. If it passes, it goes to Step 6, the Senate. The Senate does a similar review, and if they approve it too, we get to the final step, Step 7, royal assent. That's when the Governor General, who represents the King, signs the bill. And just like that, it's officially a Canadian law.
Whew! We have covered a lot today. You're doing great. So let's slow down for a minute and just go over the most important points from this chapter. These are the things you'll definitely want to remember for your test.
Okay, first remember those 3 key facts. Canada is a federal state, a parliamentary democracy, and a constitutional monarchy. Next, remember the 2 levels of government, federal for the whole country and provincial for each province. Remember that in our democracy, we elect people to the House of Commons, and Parliament has 3 parts, the Sovereign, the Senate, and the House of Commons. Also, it is so important to know the difference between our 2 leaders. The King is the head of state, a symbol. The Prime Minister is the head of government, the person who runs things. And finally, always remember that voting is an important right and a responsibility for all Canadian citizens.
So, are you ready to practice what you've just learned?
You can practice with over 700 questions on mycanadianway.com.
Just visit mycanadianway.com to learn more.
Good luck on your Canadian journey.